Benjies, welcome to the BingeWorthy podcast, part of the Geekish Network, where we will binge watch an entire series to let you know if you should. My name is Johnny Randolph, and as you can see, I've got a dope-ass group of co-hosts with me today. My first co-host, she's no stranger to the BingeWorthy podcast. She's the awesome Miss Courtney Scott Wright. Courtney, say what's up to the people, ma'am.
Hello, hello.
Cool. And falling in, you know him, new from the Ville, Ricard. Yo, son, tell the people who you are, sir.
Hello, Governor.
And falling in, Chuck. Yo, man, represent, man. Tell
what it do, people. What it do.
And joining us again, we've got some familiar faces, not necessarily binge-worthy regulars, but they always dropping in, so they're family. Catherine, tell the people who you are, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Catherine. Hello.
You're Catherine, awesome. And Dayla, ma'am, please share with our bingies who you are.
Hey, what's up? I'm Dayla.
Awesome. And tonight on the BingeWorthy podcast, we are going to be evaluating Castlevania Nocturne. The premise of Castlevania Nocturne is Richter Belmont, a descendant of the Belmont vampire hunting clan, must join forces with an unlikely crew of hunters and magicians to prevent an apocalypse during the French Revolution. The way that our show works is at the beginning, we will rate it using our binge-worthy scale. Then we engage in conversation and discussion. And at the end, just maybe our co-host can influence us to change that rating. Now, I'm going to pass it over to my technical director, Rodney. Please show us how everybody rated Castlevania Nocturne.
Dun, dun, dun.
Seeing what everybody put out there. All right. So we got a binge-worthy, we got a full meal, we got another binge-worthy, full meal,
Split.
another binge-worthy, and another full meal. So that's 27. We got 6 people.
That's 4.5.
4.5. And so we can round that up right now to a binge-worthy. All right. Okay. So let's see. Let's start talking about this thing. So Chuck, man, you know more about animation than anybody that I know. So give me your thoughts on the animation and art style for Castlevania Nocturne.
The art style is the same as the previous Castlevania. It's really good. The colors are vibrant, and for a dark animation, the animation is pretty good. And particularly the fight scenes, it goes up, and they kind of shot it similar to anime, where they drop frames in a lot of the lower level scenes, and they do a lot of still work. But the animation is really solid. The fight scenes are really good. They do a lot of motion blur though, which I prefer real all out animation. Catherine could probably attest to me because she's also part of does a lot of animation herself. She's in the industry that focuses on animation as well. They do a lot of motion blur, which I wish they did more animation, but I understand the budgets are only so big. They don't have Disney movie budget. Everybody wants Disney movie budget.
Is action blur more expensive?
It's cheaper.
Or cheaper? Okay.
It's cheaper.
Right.
So they use a lot of visual effects too to cover up a lot of animation. It's similar to anime in that regard.
Okay.
I do feel like they forgot what Alucard looked like, though.
Change it up a little bit.
I thought his animation was a little different.
So, Catherine, Chuck called you out. What did you think about the animation style and the art house style for Castlevania Nocturne?
It's very similar to repeating what Chuck said. Season 1 of not season 1, the prior Castlevania show, and then there were some shots when they had action sequences where I could not focus in some parts because it was like too fast and moving. It was only like a few sequences. I think it was when they were in the jail scene. I was like trying to figure out what was happening really like in a short period of time. It's kind of like what Studio Trigger does when they were like, oh my gosh, here's all the stuff, and then you like can't focus on anything. But it's solid, and it works. but I thought it worked for the show. It kind of is in tone of like the prior Castlevania series with some changes to certain character designs. I do have a slight issue with a couple of character designs. Like this lady, I feel like there's a lot of fan service with her character design where I'm like, her boots just don't really. I'm trying to understand the horse hooves with the bat wing. It bothered me. I'm like, what are these shoes? Sorry. What is this? But it was, yeah, I enjoyed watching it. So
All right. So, Miss Courtney Scott Wright, ma'am, you are an actress, and we know that voice acting, it is a skill, and not every actor that is an actor can do it. Lend your expertise in studying how well do you think the cast did of voice acting for this show?
I thought the voice acting was really strong. It was on par with the voice actors from the original Castlevania. It was really good. They were really engaging. They carried the story well. I mean, even the one that played Richter, he got on my nerves in the first few episodes, but he was supposed to, because I mean, he's a kid thrust into adulthood, and he hasn't really dealt with the traumas that he suffered, in the first one. And I think that was an important thing to play, because we're used to seeing these characters that are like larger than life. Something terrible happens and then they're just like filled with anger and just like hatred and fueled, to like battle on. And you get to see a character really struggling with the trauma of that brutal violent loss, and so I really liked the way it was directed. Like I said, he got on my nerves, but he was supposed to. And I just liked the way that the connections that we had, and the way that they brought in the characters from the islands, like they weren't just typical Black characters, i.e., former slaves or what have you. There was an element of that. It was more about like, I like that they brought in the history of Haiti, so I thought it was great.
All right, Ricard, before you corrected me and said you had some acting experience. So I want to know your opinion. What'd you think about the actors for this season?
I think you trying to set me up for failure. Well, you expect me to go against what Miss Courtney Scott Wright just said?
If
you got something, you got something to like
thought.
come with it. Like, I mean, listen.
Yeah, you have
I
thoughts.
want to hear it. If you had someone that you didn't, like you want to share, I want to hear.
Yeah, I'm just
Well,
asking your
now
opinion.
since you put it like that, no, I agree with everything she just said. Like I thoroughly enjoyed this. So like with the first Castlevania series, even though I liked it, just something prevented me from getting into it. And I watched maybe the first season. I don't even know if I finished the first season. But I couldn't get into it. This one, I actually really like this, and I'm looking forward to a season 2. I'm not sure why, just a tonal shift. I really did like this. And I think maybe it's because, especially when you're talking about vampires and series like this, to see some of yourself in there. So to do the characters from Haiti, and Haiti has a long storied history of revolt. Haitians don't play that. So to see that they, rose up against their vampire masters, it's interesting how, the slave masters, to be that evil, you got to be a vampire. I think I saw that when Abraham Lincoln was killing vampires. Same thing. Crazy.
Lots of themes of
I love
slavery.
that book. I love that book. It was so fun.
Crazy. I think one of the things that interested me the most about this is before we actually watched it, the controversy came out. And I don't know if we're going to cover this in a couple minutes, but the controversy came out about the Night Skins characters. And everybody was saying, how dare they? They got these Black vampires and they call them Night Skins. but that's not what the night creatures. They weren't even called night skins. The night creatures
Yeah.
weren't the you had
Weren't
a
the black
Drota.
ones.
Drota was black, and then Orlox or whatever was
Aztec.
was it Aztec,
But
Olmec or something
Orlox
like that.
wasn't a night creature.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's the thing. But most people,
Oh, and then
that's
you
how.
had,
But
then
that's
you
how it
had
is when you
Red,
have
then you had this
TikTok.
guy.
Yeah, when you have TikTok and Instagram. Yeah, but
Time out.
and
Wait,
Night skins is a slang term for black people. Is
yeah, that was a given.
yeah,
but,
they're not
but
night
they were calling them
creatures.
night creatures. They weren't
but
calling
they're
them
night
skins.
creatures.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
not. They were never night skins.
They're talking about just the characters that were white that turned black. Those are night skins.
What?
What
Well,
creatures
when they
were
do-
white
when
that
they-
turned black?
so
Oh,
in
when
the
they went in the
original
machine?
fiction of Castlevania, those characters were white, and they for the cartoon they made those characters black.
Okay,
That
wait a minute.
makes
Wait a
you
minute.
night skin.
So the
I'm so
little,
I don't understand.
okay, so the girl that came from Haiti and Edward, I guess the guy that was the opera singer, they
Yeah.
were in the comic
video
or
game.
original cartoon or something,
Video
and they
game.
were
They're in the
originally
video
white.
game,
Video
but they're
games.
not black.
They're not black. They're white.
Are they from Haiti?
No.
No,
Okay,
All of, that is
so
all of that is made up specifically
only for this show. Yeah,
but I'm
for this
still
show.
confused about where anybody was called a night skin.
They didn't
Yeah.
call them night skins in the show. It's a slang term that people that like the white boys that like anime, instead of saying the N word, they call us night skins.
because they were
Oh.
white.
Black
Because
people are
originally
night
in
skins.
the video games, and that's
I was
and
getting
that's
confused.
I
too.
was
That's one
so
of-
confused.
Black people are night skins.
yeah, because I was confused at why they were
in a
calling them night
derogatory,
skins.
In a
like
derogatory
troll
term.
kind
Well,
of
we
way.
black people claim that. We're like, oh, that's dope. We're all night skins. We'll wear that.
Oh,
Night
this.
skins
I know what
is
you're
dope.
talking about. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because the
Okay.
original
Okay.
So
character,
they're like, oh, why are these night skins in comic books now, and stuff like that? And we're like, we'll take that. Night skin sounds dope. It's
Okay.
a
I
derogatory
got
term.
you.
But-
Because I knew
but
that
to
there
be
was
clear,
derogatory term for
I
black
knew
people,
that-
but we just
yeah, I
kind
knew
of
that there
talking
was
about the
a-
night creatures.
I knew that
No.
there was a long history and there was a lot of things that were in the video games and the long series of video games that made it its way into the first series and into this series that are kind of callbacks or homages to stuff that was in the video games. But I wasn't aware of that night skins. I thought they were specifically talking about the black characters
it's
or
a
the
slang
night
term.
creatures, and I was like, they're called night creatures. Like it's like
so
No, it's a
Okay.
slang
Yeah,
term.
I don't think
referred
we
to
need to
black
talk
people.
like that. I don't really think that has relevance on
so
right now on the
and we
show.
can talk about it later. But like again, it's conversations about fandom versus people who recently come into a project. And I
Mhm.
talked about it a little earlier, but we'll move on. We'll move on. So I'm gonna move over to Dayla. Dayla, did you watch the first Castlevania?
I did not.
Oh, you did not?
That's why
Okay.
I asked. I was like, do I have to have seen the first one? Now I want to go back and watch it.
You should go back and watch it.
Yeah, you should definitely go back and watch it. So this is an animated property. We had some action sequences in it. What did you think about the fight scenes and action sequences for the series?
I agree with Chuck. I think there were definitely moments where I felt like I wish I had seen them animate a little bit more of the fight, but it was exciting to see just playing Castlevania, the video game as a kid or a teenager. So like the whip, just trying to remember like what are all the weapons he had access to and like what were all the fighting things that you did when you walked down the hallway and then went up the stairs, right? And so that was exciting to see. I think watching each kind of the light side, I'll call it, well, like the vampire fighters, the hunters, their side, watching Richter and Maria and Tara like be able to, I mean, Richter couldn't do it at first, but just weapons that they were using, like light weapons
Like
and how,
Sypha. Like
yeah.
Sypha was in the first series. She's his, I guess,
Mhm.
great grandmother.
Oh,
Mhm.
But yeah. So
And it was dope to see like him finally get his magic back because he reconnected with his grandfather, and there was some kind of, it was just interesting to see the fighting technique from Annette and Edouard from Saint Domingue in Haiti, and like then to see them fight together. And I was thinking about how like over the course of the show, as it felt like a little like the video game, like the battles got more, you had more enemies, they had to have more skills. So just watching them battle their way up to be able to handle that final battle in the church during the eclipse. Yeah. So
Good stuff. Okay. So Courtney, I'm gonna turn to you real quickly. So I know that you watched the previous series, Castlevania, because we talked about it here on BingeWorthy. How do you think this series did in establishing its own identity away from the first version?
I think it did a good job because it was almost like a reset. I was not gonna lie, I mean, Alucard is my favoriteest character from the first series.
Mhm.
So I was a little bit salty, a little butthurt that he did not have a larger role. But I also understand and appreciate the fact that he didn't have a larger role, because it gave us the opportunity to really connect to Richter, to really learn to root for him, to get to know Annette and Edouard and Tara and little Maria, who also got on my nerves. But these characters, they made it their own, and they set it amongst this time period that was new to us. Like, we don't know what Alucard's been doing, like, because as we know, like, he showed up and Richard was like, dude, you really I thought you was a myth.
I thought you was a myth, right?
I wasn't expecting him to show up at the end. I was like, oh.
I had looked ahead in the cast credits and I was like,
oh,
show up.
I
know where he at. But yeah, so I thought that it did a really good job establishing its own anthology. It brought the heat to the anthology, and I really like the addition of the characters of color, because in the first one there really is not a strong showing of diversity in the first 4 seasons, I think, of Castlevania. 3 or 4, I don't really remember. Randy, you muted.
I said I think it was 4. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I think it was 4.
It's 4.
So I really enjoyed these characters and the new ones. So yeah.
Okay.
But Rakai never answered the question about the acting. We moved on. I don't think he finished his thought.
Oh, I thought he did.
Oh, he did? Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, because I started off with, I agree with pretty much everything you said. I thought it was extremely solid. The voice acting was solid. And like I said, whatever my disconnect was with the first series, even though I liked what I saw the first series, but I just couldn't bring myself to go back and finish it, I was completely invested in this. And I guess moreover, to the point that you just said, that I cared about these characters. And I don't know if it was just having some little BIPOC protagonists in this. I don't know if that's what it was. I mean, because I connected with Richter Belmont too, which I have a whole nother thought, but I'm not gonna bring it out right now because we're gonna go deep down a rabbit hole. So
Okay.
Yeah.
So since we're talking about Richter, I'm gonna go over you, Chuck. What'd you think about Richter as the protagonist of this series? Is he an interesting enough character that made you want to follow him?
I thought Richter was interesting enough. He's as interesting as the other Belmonts. They're kind of a flat foil. They're kind of flat as characters. They're known for their weaponry. That's what they're known for. And it's always the whip. Sometimes it's a sword. And I thought he was interesting that he had magical powers he couldn't tap into. And how he cut them off himself. He tried to defend his mom, tried to be a little badass, and things happen. But I thought he was a very interesting character. I found it very interesting that he ran, because that's something you don't see a lot of Belmonts do. Belmonts aren't known for running. They run to a fight. They don't run from a fight.
And they was like scared. They showed.
Yeah, was that plausible though? Because I am in an agreement with you, Lid. We think that Belmont would literally just abandon their comrades and go seek safety.
But he was raised on his own, right? He wasn't raised as a Belmont. That's what made me think he's not raised as a Belmont.
Yeah, I was
He's
gonna.
Belmont that's outside.
Yeah, I was gonna throw out there that Chuck is exactly right. Like, and as far as he knows, he is the last of the Belmonts. But I mean, he's been on his own since he was 9, 10 years old. So whatever traditions, training, and everything that he should have gotten, he didn't get any of that, or he had a just a small portion of that before he dealt with the trauma of seeing his mom get killed by a 1,000-year-old vampire who turned into mist and turned into a damn dragon in front of his face. Like, I don't know if in the 18th, in the 17th and 19th, 18th century they had therapists, but that little boy needed one.
Oh yeah,
he sure did. He you also have to think that this is someone that he hasn't seen. He went to a whole other continent. Like Richter was sent to go and stay with Tara, and even he couldn't even use his magic. So I do think he relied on his Belmont training. Like he embraced the whip, he embraced the title and the, knowing that he was the last of his clan. But it's something to be presented with that person who traumatized you, who not just murdered your mother, knowing full well that they could have murdered you, and said, "I'll see you soon." You know what I mean? That was that was some Vernita Green bullshit. You know what I mean?
You're not ready to die yet. I'll see you later.
This is not a challenge.
Right.
You're like 9.
Right. I'm gonna wait till you grow up.
Oh, wait till you grow up and then we can do shit. Yeah. That was some Vernita Green. That was some Quentin Tarantino move right there.
And just to think that he's been carrying that with him all these years, like probably one of the reasons why he fell into his training is just rage. You know what I'm saying? What other outlet does he have to get off of the way that he saw his mother die? And really, and it's crazy too, because all of that could have played out very differently, because she told him to run at first.
He did.
And he didn't. He ran off a little bit and then he hid to see what was going on. And then he inserted himself into that fight. Like she might have escaped the fight. But once he showed back up, her whole, whatever was going on with Orox, her whole thing was to protect her son. And that got her ass killed. So he could have also been carrying the guilt that he got his mama killed. To see him run from the fight might not seem like a very Belmont thing to do, but maybe one of the reasons I connected with him, because it seemed like a very damn human thing to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, I don't fault him. He bitched up because he saw
he didn't think he could save anybody.
Yes, his entire traumatic experience in life just showed back up. And for all he know, today is the day that he killed him. I told you, I'll be back when you ready. You seem like you ready, my boy. It's time to die.
Chuck, go ahead and jump in there. You've been
but I found it interesting that he didn't practice his powers. Like, he knew his mother had power. He watched her demonstrate power, and he had powers. It seemed like his rage was pushing towards those as well. Like, he wouldn't just forget about it. Like, he would go hard in making sure he got stronger than his mother, so he can use that against this vampire when he met up with him again.
He couldn't.
Ooh.
Like, that was the thing, is that he had tried. He said that he had tried, that he had magic as a child, and then ever since that night that he had not been able to access it.
Yes.
So it literally had to come down to him protecting someone else that he loved, where it's like he is about to die, and that's why his magic came back. That's why he let go.
It's like an athletic injury, like where you have like a mental blocker of trauma.
Yeah,
so
I can see that. But still, I would think my rage would make sure I got strong enough to burn him up. I don't know.
Well, your adult-minded rage probably would.
Yeah, but rage, I mean, trauma affects people in different ways.
Yeah,
So like some people, it might push them towards that rage to be better, but some people, it might lock it all down because, the last time he used his magic or had his magic, his mother killed. So using his magic could conjure that imagery for him. Sent him.
I can see that.
So it attacks people in different ways. So Dayla, let's talk about Annette. How did her character contribute to your rating?
I think she really was one of my favorite characters and contributed to my rating. I like that she got to live. I like that she wasn't the one who got turned into the demon creature.
That part.
I noticed, the light-skinned guy got turned into the demon creature. He was an opera singer and free, and so then he is now living this different life, and a former enslaved person. Now she is free. I mean, she's fighting and stuff still. I thought her arc with Richter and then her arc with Edward was really fascinating. Like, I just appreciated that she got a lot of depth. Yeah, I think she was one of my favorite characters, and just to watch her throw, what do they call those things that she's throwing? Like the light slivers or something?
Well, she's an earthbender. Like,
oh,
she's
right, with
like,
the sand and the iron and the ore.
What's her name?
Toph.
From Avatar?
Toph.
Toph. Yeah, she's like Toph.
Okay.
Because she can turn it into, she can turn the metal into a sword, or she can turn
For
the earth into like whatever. Yeah. So she was like, yeah.
Thank you for saying that. And it reminds me, the other thing I liked about her backstory was just also understanding how the different parts of her identity and like what magic she got from her mom versus like what magic she got from her dad. And just, yeah, being able to expand the magical universe of Castlevania. So it wasn't just like the Eastern European or like the European vampires and like what you all were talking about earlier. And just, I'll say like Olrox, I'm here for it. I'm here for Olrox. And I
mean, he was real sexy. He
for
definitely
sure,
had
for
that,
sure.
He had that Louis going on, but like everything I wanted Louis to be in an interview with the vampire, but he wasn't. I'm like, with the long hair and
for sure.
Like, you better go ahead.
Yes, I was like, still. And then just really watching that dynamic, the queer dynamic with Olrox and with Mizrak, and then I think with what's her name, Drolta. I think, the whole hooves, wings thing, I was like, that's all drag queen stuff. So it just feels like there's this other meta layer of like queerness and boldness. So Annette, I was like, I get that they're like, Annette and Edward say this thing to each other, like warriors together, family and heart. And so I was like, that's a very found family kind of way. And so I don't know, I just felt like this, I hope there's a season 2. I feel like there's so much imagination possible. And the fact that, there was all this other revolution and also colonialism, and Olrox trying to say to old boy, I care about you. Don't go back there. I'm holding on to you. As soon as he lets him go, it's like, nope, you're the soulless one. So then it creates this like interesting colonialist, indigenous judgment thing. So I just, so I'm just so grateful y'all said watch it, because I was like, I don't know. And I will say, I sat down and I watched the first episode and I was like, oh, I gotta watch this whole thing now. And it went so fast. So I just, all of the levels, and the nostalgia of playing the game. I know I kind of went on a tangent, but
I think Daylight, you were absolutely right. Like Drota was fabulous.
Yeah.
Listen, the same way y'all talking about Olrox, I love me some Drota. Hooves and all or whatever. Get your bat wings, girl. Whatever.
He just needs that back heel of the. Oh, sorry.
She does.
That's the only thing. I'm like, it's just like, how is it? I know she's
a Star Trek Discovery fan.
But I was just about to say it. I'm just about to say it.
Courtney, say it.
Oh man, I was like, that is just like the dude from Discovery who is started with an S, Saru. Because he practiced walking in heels in order to get that character the way that he was supposed to be. And so I appreciated just like the badassery of Drolta. Like she was so confident, and I almost kind of like the main big bad was kind of a letdown in comparison to what Drolta was bringing.
And she's supposed to be Egyptian.
Brought that fire, and then you had this woman who was supposed to be like the embodiment of like Set.
Yeah.
Sekhmet.
No, Sekhmet.
Yeah.
She's supposed to be Sekhmet. And I was like, first of all, and I know that this character is based on a woman who actually existed in history, and that is the reason that I think a lot of Dracula, the first Dracula was written about this woman who was apparently a serial killer and was running around.
I killed her husband or some shit like that.
I mean, it was like bringing love.
Don't kill your husband, girl.
Like the first. Yeah, she
No,
was like
this
the
this
first.
chick not only killed her husband though, she was like
She was a
kidnapping
serial.
virgin girls. She was
Yeah, and
kidnapping young
bathing in their
girls and
blood.
And bathing in
bathing
their
in
blood.
their
Yeah.
blood and
Yeah.
shit.
And
Like,
drinking
she was
their
on
blood
some
and stuff like
she was
that.
on some other shit.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, so there's some
She's
people
either a vampire or lesbian.
there's-
Oh no.
there's some people that said those were rumors created about her because like she was kind of an outspoken woman and at a time when women shouldn't be that way and these things, so a lot of like her political enemies kind of made up those stories.
It's like
they
which
made up those.
it's like
Okay.
which
Yeah.
accusations.
Yeah, so like none of it's
Wikipedia.
confirmed, but you know, it's stories out there.
Wikipedia.
Well, and that's just like Dracula being based on Vlad the Impaler and stuff like that. And but Vlad, in his, you know, lunacy, as he was taking down his enemies, you know, he was one of those ones that, you know, if the legend is better than the real story, run with the legend. He like, y'all say whatever you want to. You know what I'm saying? I know y'all ain't gonna come in here and mess with me.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So
and so we don't know what's true or not.
Well, we don't know. But in this particular story, Drolta, in my opinion, was a way more powerful villain that to the point when you brought out your actual villain, she was a letdown.
Yeah.
Like she didn't instill in me this devout devotion that all these people had and to even with her transformation into Sekhmet. Like I was like, okay.
But no, yeah, like
just looked like she became Cinderella.
Yeah. Well, it looked like bird-like Cinderella. She was like Birderella.
Right.
Was it?
Yeah, but then this European chick transforms into this Egyptian goddess. So like, I've seen that terrible movie. Had Gerard Butler. Get out of here.
No, it was called Moon Knight when all of the Egyptian gods were white people.
Don't even.
So I'm tired of these people making Egyptian gods, and I understand that they're, you know, not just black people living in Egypt. But come on, man, can we just have one?
But those people aren't white though.
Yeah,
I understand.
That's part of it, though. Like,
too.
Yeah,
her role was when she turned into Sekhmet that she was a farce. She's not real Sekhmet.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, I feel that because the only thing she did was allegedly cause the you know, the eclipse. Yeah. I was like, girl, you could have picked up a farmer's almanac.
Get him.
Yeah, exactly. I think she was a farce.
She felt
was
like
hiding
whatever was
behind
happening with her
Drolta.
little necklace. Her little necklace was doing something. Like she's just a witch.
She felt like a pawn compared to like the.
I think that's what Chuck is hitting at. Like she's not real, so she's
not real. She's the Manchurian
Egyptian, and so yeah.
I mean, but she was powerful as shit though, because I know Richter and them, they didn't have zero effect on her, whatever. So the fact that the Alucard to show up at the end, I was like, yeah, get that ass Alucard.
But that's because she actually used power during the eclipse. But before, she might not have had any. She convinced Drolta that she was powerful, and Drolta was the power. Like Drolta was like Drolta was Weebay. In The Wire.
From The Wire.
Yeah, but Weebay is actually based on Weebay is a real person.
But I'm saying, but Drolta was Weebay or Alpo, like a real hardcore killer,
a real killer.
Things. But there was somebody that that person admired that they defended and thought was the brains of the operation.
There's a person who's the head of the mob, but he pay everybody to be tough. He's not really tough.
Yeah. I do know like the show has like several layers of slavery and enslavement in it. With I'm gonna butcher everyone's names and stuff, like her being formerly enslaved. You can even make a suggestion to even this baddie being kind of enslaved.
Yeah, for sure.
The opera singer guy, slavery, and even
he was born free, but then became a slave to the point of Bela.
But it ties into the theme of slavery, as well as I'm gonna butcher his name too.
12 years.
The Quetzalcoatl guy. Orox, yeah. Also,
I love that you call him Quetzalcoatl.
Well, it's the dragon. It's the I'm butchering the pronunciation.
Yeah, because it did look like that when he transformed.
He was an Aztec. I like that they brought in the native element. You know, the fact that like, you know, the different. That was different.
And that voice actor was just on Reservation Dogs.
Yep. That and also the voice actor of Richter was in the Discovery of Witches. He was the vampire kid in Discovery.
Oh, he was the younger one. He was the young one.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I liked
Are
him.
talking about like slavery being a common theme. So these characters in the series have deviated from the original source material. Are we fine with that? Because one of the questions that I ask is a lot of the fandom was mad about the deviations in the character descriptions. And so they really threw a bunch of like they photobombed or whatever it's called, Rotten Tomatoes, giving it lower scores than really giving it lower scores. I thought by evidence of my rating, right, that the show was outstanding. It was great. I enjoyed it. So does it matter what the fandom, the opinions of the fandom versus just telling a good story that, you know, people who are not a part of the fandom may feel?
All right. So before I answer that, Randy, let's flip it on its head, right? So if it was a story from comic books or video games that had traditionally people of color in it, and for whatever reason, Hollywood changed some of the characters to some Caucasian characters, how would we feel about that?
Kung Fu is that example in the API community. David Carradine. That TV show Kung Fu with David Carradine.
Don't even get me started on that bullshit.
I don't think we need to even go there. I can give you my answer. The reason that I gave it a full meal is because of that. Because it deviated from the fandom. It was a damn near perfect show. But because it deviated from the fiction so much and just renamed and recast and replaced the characters somewhere else, it angered me. Because I'm like, we're worthy of new characters. And nothing would have made this any worse of a show if they just gave us all new characters. If Annette had a different name, if she had a Haitian name, a real Haitian name, if the characters were real. So for me, it got a full meal.
So what you're saying is, so we put this in the Castlevania universe, but you give us like a new IP, like you give us a brand new story for this with brand new characters, and maybe, you know, bring forth someone who is a new Belmont that we didn't know anything about. Like even like they threw and I remember playing I remember playing Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance with Juiced, like a young Juiced, and they threw him in there. It's like, but it was like almost like an afterthought. They threw him in there as an older, kind of washed up, but he still got it a little bit, you know what I'm saying, Belmont, that Richter didn't know nothing about. And basically they used him kind of as a foil, as a plot point to trigger Richter's, you know, latent powers, his you know, his mental block, which is interesting. You know, you see your grandfather's about to get murdered, so your mental block all of a sudden.
It wasn't.
I don't know him. I don't know that dude. Like, you know,
it wasn't even him. It was Richter was about to die. Richter was about to die, and he had to choose to live. And that's like, it's literally, it was life or death in that moment. That's why his powers came back. Yes, his grandfather, I think, was a byproduct that he saved him too. Yeah. But it was more about like the choice to live. But if, can I say in my answer to the question, I kind of agree. I agree with Chuck, because I think that when it comes to fandom, not necessarily fandom per se, when it comes to this concept of taking old IP and just repackaging it, it's become a thing that people are going with the tried and true, what they consider tried and true, rather than trying something new, which is ultimately the way we got these things that have become tried and true, is because someone created a new idea that people fell in love with. So either you don't have any ideas, or you're so busy trying to like just make money that it's less about the art and more about the dollars. And I don't necessarily, I would have loved if they had given her a Haitian name, if they had given us a brand new story. It's just like The Little Mermaid. I didn't need the Little Mermaid to come
Yeah.
in brown. I needed you to give me a mermaid story set somewhere off the coast of the Bahamas or Jamaica and give me that story. Give me Once on This Island, because you know what? That's basically the Little Mermaid. I mean, T Boone is like, for, you know what I mean? Like,
and they need to stop.
I don't
that's
just stop. But in terms of like fandom, the reason fandoms get so mad is kind of like what we talked about offline about Interview with the Vampire, and like how I was, you know, Catherine and I were going back and forth versus someone who has read the books and versus someone who is just being introduced to the series and watched the TV series. You know what I mean? So it's like I think I would have loved that narrative about New Orleans from another perspective within the world of Interview with the Vampire, which is other vampires.
The interesting thing is they didn't use any of the Castlevania stories. They just peppered it with the names of characters that already exist.
Yep.
This is a brand new story.
And gave you like some of the powers and some of the things that you've seen in the video games, but they just kind of threw some stuff in there as throwbacks. They get, you know, Easter eggs. They gave you just, it's full of Easter eggs, but
I know that with Juice, they reference a couple of storylines that were in the cast. Like, it was small, but the characters that died were referenced and became, I guess, canon.
But I wouldn't like, they could have Juice, they could have had Richter, and they could have just gave all the characters from everywhere else something new. They could have came up with another character and renamed Drolta into something else. They could have gave her an African name. That'd have been stronger than Drolta. You know, they could have. I mean, you gave the white woman an African name.
God.
Why would you give the black woman an African?
I feel like
name?
that character's just an afterthought.
Who we know came from Africa,
right?
So I'm like, yeah, they could have done this better. Instead, you gave us names of games that a lot of people probably didn't play, because we're not going to front out here and say the Castlevania games do great. They don't do great. They do okay.
I've never played. I did go down the rabbit hole of researching the characters, but I've never played the Castlevania.
They don't do great. They do okay.
I had to look at the bloodline because I was kind of confused at where Juice came from. Like, where did he come from? Like, who's this?
You know,
and there were two
few of that
Richters.
was from very, very small sample sizes, you know, games that, you know, a PC game or something like that people barely ever played.
Yeah, and from my understanding, it doesn't have a lot of story.
No, you don't.
I guess for me, that's like part of why I'm fine with the changes, because the IP doesn't have like a crazy in-depth story. Like, I guess with the versions they're referencing, but I'm also a person that I kind of agree and disagree with aspects of changing certain parts of the fandom, because I see it when you change it to a show or whatever medium it's on. I see it changing. Like, it's changing. It's not a book. It's not a comic, or it's a different method of storytelling. But I can't agree with, like, Little Mermaid, for example. Don't need like rehashes or live action versions of animated movies that don't really work or kind of half-assed,
that were established.
And that were versions of, I think they were versions of, they're based off of books that were Disney changed to make
European fairy tales, right?
Yeah. So there's more of like, I guess I have more of an ethical issue with the Disney, like, original IP Disney turning it into Disney stuff and then redoing Disney stuff. And with Little Mermaid, I'm like,
well, it's like y'all are saying, like, it's still reposition, it still makes center this white story, or this story based on white cultural narratives of good and bad, and what is powerful and what is soulless. I mean, all the stuff about like the natural order, like just all the way that language gets. I was having
steeped in racism.
For sure. I was talking to a friend about U.S. relationship to the Philippines. I was like, they call us their little brown brothers. Like, there's this whole situation. So I honor, like, yeah, it would be great. As somebody who didn't watch the first series, this was for me a friend, like, it was binge worthy because I was like, I feel like this was made for an audience like me. I'm here for all the Black characters, and I'm here for the Aztec character, I'm here for the gay stuff, I'm here for the drag queen, I'm here for powerful women, I'm here for all the video game feels that I remember. And I don't have a dedication to the fandom or to the stories that were there. But I think now that I'm thinking about it, I was like, I could see how that might change my mind to go down to a full meal, because yeah, we deserve y'all deserve new characters that have their own canon and don't have to fight the battle of it's colorblind casting.
Yeah.
Because it's not that.
So the question is, and this is just me playing devil's advocate, because I mean, I already know the answer. And like what Chuck said when I posed the question before, I agree with him completely. Or like when Courtney said we didn't need the brown version of the Little Mermaid. I think a lot of times when you create a brand new IP, sometimes, especially if you have, these production houses or whatever, you're taking a gamble, because most people, and we're talking about the soulless, greedy corporations who do stuff just, to make the money hand over fist because of familiarity. But if you took the familiarity out of it and so now it's not Castlevania, you put it into a whole new thing, would we still be watching it? Would we still be talking about it?
Yes.
I mean, I think in some cases
we're a select
that is,
group of people.
in
We're a
some
select group.
cases,
You know what I mean?
Monsters
Like,
and
we would watch.
vampires,
yes,
But
like
they could
Blue-Eyed
even keep.
Samurai,
Sorry.
like we're gonna do Blue-Eyed Samurai here sometime soon. You know what I'm saying? New IPs and things like that. And even to take a brand new IP, even though it's based loosely in an established IP, like Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon is coming out sometime soon or whatever, where that looks interesting, and we're gonna take a look at that, because it does feature BIPOC people or whatever, but it's still loosely based on Star Wars. That's kind of a one-off where it's a big production and Netflix sunk a bunch of money into it, and like, all right, we believe in this universe and this thing that you're creating, and it's kind of Star Wars, but we're gonna say it's our Star Wars. It's our big, our big tentpole thing. Yeah. Would people, or the kind of numbers that Castlevania Nocturne got, the attention that it got, would that still be the same if it was a brand new IP?
Yes, I think it would. When I was at Netflix, the one thing they proved through data, there's no correlation with established IP and how well something does. It all comes down to marketing of something. It's all because there's been a lot of IP that we've done. Let me say the Karate Kid, for example, that flopped, and yet Fast and the Furious was not a traditional IP whatsoever, and it has survived 20 years.
That's right,
I
Randy.
figured you would
Continually
bring that up.
survive.
That's
How
right,
we
Randy.
talk about Castlevania and we get into this?
Wait.
I'm just saying.
Because everything's about family.
IP. It shouldn't be here. It shouldn't even be here.
But if you think about, especially when it comes to anything animated, like Avatar: The Last Airbender started on Nickelodeon, and it grew to this point that, like, word of mouth, that it became one of the most iconic and beloved animated series, and it was not from established IP. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it became the IP that then spun off to another Avatar, and then spun off to this the movie that shall not be named, but it also is about to be another a live action TV series. So ultimately, they do come from somewhere. If you look at, like, and I know these, I'm because we're talking about an animated series, I'm talking about like Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan was from the manga, but like the manga had to come from somewhere. Same with Jujutsu Kaisen. It had to come from somewhere. So like there are new ideas that are coming that are spawning these like beloved shows, but like we just have to like give artists the opportunity to try something new and give them space and market it.
Yes,
so
market
that
it.
someone will know.
And market it.
It's like, I remember we had this talk about the Disney African the anthology. Yeah, and it wasn't advertised well at all.
Yeah, the Kazazimoto.
Kazazimoto. Yeah. Elemental flopped at the theaters, and people didn't go, and then it had a resurgence, and now all of a sudden it's beloved
because it's good.
It's okay.
Marketed well.
Daylight, you were trying to say something. I think you're
Just
ready.
real quick to say, I think the other thing that could have happened, to your point, Rakai, is that they could have still kept Rector Belmont. They could have still kept Castlevania pieces, but they could have created like Annette could have had a different name. They could have added other people into the mix. Is where I realized I'm like, oh, that would have been. I'm realizing now that's what I'm more interested in these days, is like, how can you help add more of us to the universe? Because we were already there. Our stories, our vampires were already there. Like like multiple cultures have stories about this.
Absolutely.
And multiple cultures have people fighting against this kind of evil or darkness, or, you know.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you completely. And I think that's the interesting thing, is that we do deserve new IPs. Like we deserve new stuff, and we deserve to have it marketed like they would any other thing, because that's the thing. You know, you have these strong things like Kazazimoto was a beast, and it got zero push, you know, and it's a damn shame, because that was really something new. And there were several of those anthology pieces that could be built out into their own series or something that's more of a long form, you know. And it's but and I hate the fact that just that the current model, the way things are now, and maybe that's one of the things about streaming that's it's good and bad, is that you can push, you don't have to go with what's familiar and make it easier to tap into, as Rodney said, tap into that existing audience.
Chuck, go ahead and jump in there.
We have like established IPs that introduce new characters that dominate. Like I'm think of two right now. Harley Quinn in DC. She was made for a cartoon. Now she has her own show. We have Ahsoka for Star Wars, a woman of color. She was created for the show, for a cartoon that nobody's watching because everybody was more in tune with Avatar. Avatar outperformed Clone Wars, and they both were doing horrible, but Avatar was definitely outperforming it, and they created Ahsoka. So we have seen that you can have an established IP, introduce a new character's dynamic, and just go with it. Annette would have been dope with her. Yep.
The Mandalorian, Grogu, you know, like you
think of it. There's a
it's an
bunch
homage
of
to the world and the IP, to your point, but you're giving them their own space for people to fall
they could have
in
said
love.
this is Richter's story, but it's Richter's story actually when he's dealing with people in the Caribbean. Nobody would have known the difference. They just added to the canon. Just added it to the canon.
Okay, I think we've touched on this point enough. Let's go ahead and let's rewrite this thing. So we'll start with you, Chuck. How are you gonna rewrite it?
I'm keeping it as a full meal.
Keep it as a full meal. Okay.
Just for the sake of the fandom.
For the sake of the fandom. Okay. All right. So Dayla, how are you gonna re-rate it?
Wow, you have to come read next. Dude, can I say I'm in a final thought about it, and I would love to go last if that's okay.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So let's jump to you. Catherine, how are you going to re-rate it?
I'm gonna keep it the same. Like I still really enjoyed it. And I was shocked that it came out the time it came out. Like they announced it, then it was out on TV, then I finished it. I'm like, oh, when's season 2 coming out? Is it gonna come out right now? I was like, nope, I have to wait probably two or 3 years. So
okay. Yeah. And what did you rate it the first time?
The Biggie binge.
Binge out. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Cool. Rakai, how are you gonna re-rate it?
I'm sure it's the Biggie binge. It's like a meal. Let me get one of them Biggie binges. Is that the $6 meal? Let me get that. I think to Catherine's point, and even seeing Dayla's point as well, I really, really did enjoy this, but I did have a few just things that kind of struck me wrong. And now after our conversation, it's easier for me to articulate what those were. So I think I'm going to stay at a full meal. I'm not going to move up. I think I'm going to stay.
Okay. I'm going to jump in here. I really enjoyed it. I had so much fun, and I have fun in this universe. I'd love to see another series, you know, in this universe, and it doesn't even have to be the Belmont family, just in this world. And I do concur with the assessment about the fandom. We do need new IPs, you know, and we've got a lot of BIPOC creators out there that can create the shit out of some new IPs that are just as grand as the current ones that we have. But with that being said, I thought these characters delivered. I thought they were fun. So I'm going to retain my rating of a full binge out. Courtney, what about you?
I'm gonna stay at a full meal because the reason that I gave it a full meal in the first place was pacing. I didn't think the pacing of the show was on point because it dragged out a lot of the story before you actually got to understand what was going on. There was a lot of all these like side things and like getting to the night creatures and then understanding who they were battling and why and then Edward and his whole there was a lot of information and storylines that I think could have been pared down because I really liked Annette and I really liked her connection to the ancestors, but I just think it needed a little bit more fleshing. I did enjoy it I felt like it really popped off once Richter was settled within himself. It was some great characters, great action, great story, but the pacing for me was a little bit off. And I didn't really enjoy the whole monk element. I was like, where's Isaac? Like, who trained this dude? What's going on? You know what I mean? So I felt like that was a little haphazard with this guy in this secret monk who's really, in cahoots with the bad people. So yeah, I'm saying a full meal because there were problems for me.
Isaac was my favorite character from season 4.
I know. And I don't understand like where is he? You know what I mean? Like I just had thoughts.
Cool. Daylight, come on, bring us on. What are you gonna re-rate it?
Thank you. I appreciated being able to hear other folks. For me, I think there is this question about expanding the IP and having more stories. But as I think about it, I'm hearing everybody, I was like, yeah, but I gotta say, I did not expect to be blown away by Old Rocks and that storyline and just all the pieces we were talking about and the high heels of Drolta and like just all the lady empowerment in the vampire-ness of it all. So I'm gonna stay at BingeWorthy for the new fans and the folks who are coming to it fresh and are now like, all right, cool, now I'm ready to jump back and like figure out what Castlevania is.
Okay, so that keeps us at 4.5 as well. So we can go ahead and round that up. We're going to give Castlevania Nocturne a full binge out. Good stuff. Captain, you got anything to say before we head out, man?
I just think it's cool. This is probably the second show that I've seen within a month apart that references like Haitian mythology, like Night Crew, the DreamWorks TV show also references it, and I just thought it was cool to see this and that and like more.
What's the Night Crew?
Oh yeah, that's on Hulu and Disney Plus. It's by DreamWorks, so.
Ricard, got anything to say before we head out, sir?
Yes, but I'm not gonna say it because that's yeah. I'm gonna.
We may as well say it now.
That's no, because it's gonna lead to a whole. It's an offline thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Dayla, you got anything to say before we head out, man?
Just appreciate the space always, and I'm waiting for Castlevania Aswang in the Philippines.
No, that's dope.
Yeah.
As Rodney and I were talking about in the chat. So just I already see it. Belmonts go to Philippines. It's already colonialism is everywhere. I believe in the vampires there of colonialism. So back in power right now. It's bad.
I love it. Miss Courtney Scott, right, man? We got anything to say before we head out?
I need more Alucard in the season 2. He is my favorite character. I would like Isaac to be revisited, but I settle for Alucard. Like, where you been? That's it.
Chuck, bring us on home, man. What do you got to say before we head out?
Oh man, what are we doing next week?
Next week we are doing Wheel of Time.
Okay.
That show.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah, Wheel of Time. It just I think it ended a couple weeks ago, something like that.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
It is.
talking about that. All right, Benji's, the Geekish Network. We are a network devoted to BIPOC people. We're got dope people in front of the camera, behind the camera, and we do this to bring content for people who look like you. So please support us. Hit those like buttons, give us those thumbs up so you can receive the notification of when we publish next. And join us next week. As we just said, we're going to do Wheel of Time. Come back and hear what the BingeWorthy crew has to say about Wheel of Time. Until then, same geek time, same geek channel. We will talk to you guys later. Peace.